This is my story. Um, for the first 10 and a half years of my life, I had a great little life. I had a great childhood. I had parents and family, and I lived in a great neighborhood. Lots of kids, lots of friends, lots of play. Everything was nothing to complain about. Until my parents decided they didn't want to play anymore. And my mother decided to try to get some happiness in her life, and it was without my father. And so on 1974, yeah, I just aged myself, we went down to a relative's place in Toronto, and I had no idea that I wasn't going to be coming back. My brother left with my father on Boxing Day. My sister moved in with my older cousin, and I was with my mom with no explanation, no nothing. And that lasted for another 4 years. I had a lot of questions, and no one had any answers. No one would explain to me what was going on. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any consequence. I didn't have anything. I just had a lot of anger. I was a very upset child. I cried a lot. Basically, I felt like I was kidnapped. I was taken from a life that I was so comfortable in, and it just disappeared. And I was in that place, and it definitely wasn't a place of neutrality, I'll tell you that. Because for 4.5 years, I just didn't want anything to do with anybody. I had no trust. I couldn't trust adults. I couldn't trust anybody. During that time, I found my way back to Ottawa to live with my father and my brother, but it didn't make it, like, I thought I was coming home, but home wasn't there anymore. It wasn't the same home. And until I was 14 and a half years old, my mother got remarried, and a bunch of my brother and my sister's friends and we went down to my mom's place in Belleville, and we were there for her wedding, and it was on the 27th of December, and so we stayed for New Year's. And yeah, I remember this like it was yesterday. My mother bought me a little bottle of baby duck. Why does everything start with baby duck? You know, like it's disgusting. But I never drank before. Like I had tried my neighbor's brother's hash pipe once when I was about 12, but that didn't do nothing for me. But this night, I was supposed to hold on to this little bottle of baby duck until midnight, so I could toast in with the adults. And I realize now that I drank alcoholically right from the word go, because that bottle didn't last past 8 o'clock. And then anybody else's drink was fair game. And so my first drink was my first drunk, was my first blackout, was my first hangover. But some people will ask, what was your first drink? And everybody knows what they had for their first drink. I had baby duck, but my first drink was the answer to every problem this 14-year-old child was suffering through for 4 years. It answered everything. It took away everything. It was a great eraser. I didn't realize until my adult life that it was going to erase everything for me. So it was my answer. I had arrived there. And I call him my little gremlin. He sits back here and he tells me every time I get upset, every time I can't handle life on life's terms, I know the solution to that. And it was to pick up a drink. And I did that for 40 years. It was the answer to everything. It didn't matter. Like I didn't know how to grow up. I didn't know how to be an adult. I didn't know how to I took my first hostage back in 1990, and she already had 2 children. We had 2 more, but they didn't matter. I couldn't see past my own nose. It was all about Keith, And it took about 30 years, 40 years to hear that pop, and I call that pop the sound when I pull my head out of my butt. It makes a weird sound, like reality, life comes in, and so, as I said, it was my answer to everything. Now, during that time, I had a big hate on for everything and everyone. I lost a really dear friend of mine to at the hands of another in 1983, and I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do about it. And for the next 6 or 7 years, you did not want to be in the same room as Keith. Didn't matter. And I just, what did I do? I found my solution again, and I stayed there. And so I've been in and out of treatment centers. I've been to 11 treatment centers. I've been in and out of the hospital too many times to count. Detox, I know the people by name. And nothing worked for me. It wasn't about getting sober. It was about getting people off my back. I had back problems. I had people on my back. Employers on my back. I just wanted to get away from that. But I didn't want to get sober. I just wanted to please other people. And it was when COVID hit. Just before COVID hit, my daughter was attacked. She was a victim of a home invasion. And she was assaulted with a box cutter. And her face was cut up pretty severely. Now, I had, she knew my past. And when I saw her in the hospital in May of 2020, she asked me, would I go take care of this for her? And I said I couldn't. And she said, oh, it's those damn AA guys, right? That's the reason. You just can't do this. And I was crushed. And for 7 months, it was either go kill this person or pick up a drink. That was my only options. And I picked up a drink. And it was not the right answer. And so I was on the waiting list to go to treatment. And COVID hit. And the day I was supposed to go into treatment, they said, sorry, we're closed. Like, sorry, we're closed. And I didn't know what to do. And so I had to white knuckle it for another couple of months until they found an opening, and I started on my way. But the problem was I started on my way, but I couldn't get out of my own way. The biggest problem I had was me. And, the first 10 years of my life, I aligned my will and my life with my parents' will. So I knew how to do it. I just didn't want to do it with God. And in treatment and in AA, I just skipped that. When they told me that I could come up with a higher power of my own understanding, that was a flippin' hall pass. Because I could come up with my own understanding, this alcoholic. So I just bypassed that. But on the 31st of July, I came to a conclusion that I didn't know what I was doing. I ended up on my arse and on George Street sidewalk. I ended up in detox, went to Billy Buffett's house of Maison Billy Buffett's for 3 weeks. But I've always known about Jericho Road. And I didn't want to go there because they talked about God all the time, every day. And I had no business in a church. The only time I was in a church was to see somebody get married or buried. I went to my first service here in this church, listening to this gentleman right there. The week after I got to Jericho Road, and Jericho Road saved my life because I had this contempt prior to investigation, and that was how I lived my life. If I didn't believe it was going to be happening, it was true, I wasn't doing it. And these guys showed me grace that I've never seen before in my life. I felt connected for the very first time because I always thought the opposite of addiction was sobriety. Only problem is I didn't know what sobriety was. I knew what sobriety was. I had a lot of sobriety, but I didn't have any happiness. I didn't have any peace. But slowly but surely, they stuck with me. I stuck with them. I met a bunch of guys that I normally would not have mixed with. I felt connection for the first time in my life. And then I remember John was doing his Wednesday skit at Jericho, and well, you know, and all of a sudden he stopped, and I got really pissed because it was the first thing, that was the only way I was connecting with stuff. He allowed me to connect with my daughter. I got on, and I got honest with you about my daughter, man. And I stopped looking at her with contempt, and I started coming from a place of love and stopping judging her. And I have an incredible relationship with my daughter today. I'm having a lunch with my son tomorrow, and I haven't been in the same room with him since I put him through a table. And that's a gift of this program. That's a gift from God. That's a gift that I didn't think I was ever going to have. So all I can say is I know what grace is today. And I know what connection is today. And I know I just want to read something here. It's in the past week, I've heard this twice, and I've heard it way before that. The first time I experienced it was in 2000, and it's called Man in the Glass. And, you know, I'll finish with this, because if I don't, I'm going to start bawling. Man in the glass. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your father, your mother, your wife, whose judgment upon you must pass. It's the fellow whose verdict comes most in your life. It's the one staring back in the glass. He's the fellow you please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end. And you're past your most difficult, dangerous test if that one in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathways of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you cheated that man in the glass.